suppression of the use of marijuana and of the forces lurking behind it are the most important jobs this department is now engaged in. In 1930, the records on marijuana in the Washington office of the Narcotics Division scarcely filled a small folder like this. Today, they fill cabinets.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Coloradians and everyone that's smart enough to listen from the outside.
It's one of the most amazing plants we've ever discovered.
The pot party, the trippers, the grasshoppers, the hip ones, all gathered in secrecy and flying high as a kite.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another grueling week of Stoned Appetit. With your host, as always, it's me, Kip Wilson, and to my left, I got old CB. CB, how are you, brother?
Surprisingly, a lot better than I thought I would be today. I thought I was going to be struggling.
Yeah, we had a big weekend. Today's episode is going to be a full Aspen recap. We will be playing the name drop game for a little bit, but really we want to highlight some movers and shakers in the industry. Colorado was very well represented both at the trade show as well as in the parties and the festivities going around the town of Aspen. But if y'all have been following along on our social media, you well know this already. We've got all of that, and then later this week, we'll start doing our interviews with guests talking about everything food life. You know, there's some positives, there's some negatives, there's some sad stories that came out of Aspen as well. We'll give an ode to Chef James Kent, who passed away over the weekend. But we've got a great episode for y'all today. We'll talk about as much of it as we can before Eve cuts off our mics and kicks us out of the house. Speaking of which, let's touch base with Queen E. Eva, how are you?
I'm great.
Oh, she's smiling and she said, great.
You made
Holy
it.
shit, you're really happy. Why?
Sure.
What happened this weekend?
Nothing really.
Something had to go really well because you dropped off treats.
Yeah, I think those treats are poisonous, but
They're fine.
all right.
That's all. They're just fine. And I don't need a whole box of those in my house. You know
They're
what I mean?
fine. You're great.
Yeah.
So things are going well here
Yeah.
today. That's a lot more than we usually get out of Eve. She's smiling, she's doing great, and the treats she brought us were just fine, which means she poisoned the shit out of them. You know what's not poisoned, Chris? The great groceries that we get from our friends over at Pine Melon. They work with 200 plus local purveyors of meat and farmers so that you can help support your local ecosystem while also eating well in the process. You've probably heard us say it time and time again, but some unbelievable meat companies, people like Brunson Meats, people like Lottie's Meats, people like Stagecoach, people like Grawa, all of those, farmers like Lost Rock, Masa Seed Foundation. Hell, you can get your microgreens from there. They've got everything and more, and they deliver that shit right to your doorstep. I was actually looking at the groceries because I'm gonna try to eat a little leaner this week after all the Wagyu and caviar we polished off last weekend. So I was looking for leaner meats, lots of produce, and I swear to God, it's cheaper than Kroger right now. And then when you use promo code STONED, you're actually gonna get $60 in free groceries. So you have to spend like $65, you know, so that you have to give them something, but you'll get $60 just by using promo code STONED. And they were well represented up in Aspen as well. We're gonna dive into all of that, but we would have been remiss if we didn't give a shout out to our friends over at Pine Melon. Did I do well there? Did I sell it?
I think so.
I fucking love them. They had those little charcuterie cups this weekend. We've been knocking back cheese for days. It took you like 5 days to take a shit. It was a hell of a time. We're gonna talk about all of it starting now. Cue the music, Eve. Beep, 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 beep. Bubbles, bubbles, bubbles. All right, CB, what do you want to start with? Should we start with, this is your first time to go as a patron more so than a worker bee. And so, holy fuck. Is that place not just, it's not real life, but holy fuck, it's immaculate.
Right from the gates, it was fucking awesome. And it's almost like, it sucks because you just have to pick and choose between so many cool events. But I think we did the best with what we had available.
I could not agree more. And I think a large in part, that's a shout out, and I think we would be remiss if we didn't lead with this.
Yes.
Shout out to the team from the Food and Wine Company, or Food and Wine Magazine, and the Baltz Co groups, because those two teams made us feel like we were not only important, but like a valued member of the community, which is very rare, especially as we sit here with Eve, who does the exact opposite.
Right.
But like they host these wonderful parties and events, and we were lucky enough to be a part of those events. And it's just, like you said, it's nonstop. There's 4 events at 4, 4 events at 5. But Thursday, it really is just right out the gates, like hit the ground running. Fucking Carlin and Bobby had a seminar on Thursday before we even got to town. Like, the devil works hard, but I feel that the people of the Food and Wine magazine, shout out to Lori, Sarah, Michelle, Phil, Amanda, they all just work so diligent. They have so many parties and events going on, things like there's so many moving pieces. You kind of have to pick your poison in the best of ways.
And the best part about it was we weren't just like, we never felt just like a number, like we actually, like they talked to us, they got to know us. So like, I know you had developed some relationships last year, but for me, this was the first time meeting some of these people, and they were fucking spectacular. They were so nice. Like they remember my name, so it was just
you got called Mr. Slaughter a few times, but that was an endearing term. That means they knew and loved your fiance to that point. But that's exactly right. Like they made everyone feel not only welcome, but like they belong there just as much as the seminar speakers or the folks that we see on television. It's gnarly, isn't it? It's weird. And I think one thing that's really weird is that you hear these stories of people on social media, or like when you bump into a famous person, like Domu is the account on social media that says, oh, I saw this person. They just wanted to be left alone in the corner of this coffee shop. At Food and Wine, it's like we met Carmelo Anthony and he let me talk to him for 15, 20 minutes about the Portugal project, which, who the fuck would ever let me ramble in their ear for 20 minutes? And he was so kind. And, it's like unreal. And then you turn around and you meet these chefs that have, these large followings online and this very long schedule and this list or long line of people that want to speak with them. And they take the dedicated time to chat with each and every one of you. And it kind of reminds you of why we love our food community so much. Not only is the circle very small, but these are the same people that we relate to. Like we've worked in this field for a long time. Between the two of us, we have a litany of, work and industry experience, but also doing this podcast for 5 years. And it's just like chopping it up with anybody else on the line, like anybody that was your CDC or, the same people from the movie Waiting, that kind of vibe. It was so fun and playful and like relaxed yet refined that you come out the gates drinking $75 a glass of wine. And it's just the most bubbly, fun, entertaining environment in the world.
And I think it goes like, I think the reason that's just so easy and it just happens just naturally to everybody that's involved is just the fact that the hospitality community supports one another. And like they're all there, like they all know each other, they've all helped each other out, shared advice, things like that. And so I think it's just one of those where like nobody's out to get you. Like take your time, enjoy the moment. And that's what I felt from everybody. Everybody was just really nice. Like we were there. Some of these people we look up to a lot of them,
the best
everybody.
Way.
And so, just even if it's just like a couple words here or a couple words there, or maybe like a joking laugh with somebody, it's fucking fun.
And I think, what's even cooler is that like these folks are kind of coming into our backyard, and obviously they have a lot of respect, not only for other hospitality industry, employees, chefs that have, worked with them and things of that nature. But it's just like they treat everything like it's like don't miss this opportunity. Like they go out of their way to say hello. Like the late night parties, the Denver businesses, like they're like, oh, bring your friends, and it's like, oh, bring your friends. I don't care if they're on Food Network or if they're on the podcast with you, like it did not matter. I don't think I've ever felt as welcome. Like I could go home at Christmas and see my family and don't think I would have been as welcomed as the fucking Food and Wine magazine welcome party with all of this year's Top Chef finalists. We're going to talk about it. Weren't they just unbelievably awesome? Savannah, Danny, Dan, oh my God.
And imagine like how tired you have to be being one of those contestants, coming off like a huge show like that, and then having to go to these events. And the thing is, like, it would be easy, me personally, it would be easy for me to just be like, oh my God, I just don't want to talk to anybody. But that's not it.
Yeah, you
they
don't
were
wear it
everywhere.
well. They wear it so
they
well.
They were everywhere.
And the cool thing is, for those that are listening, like, shut the fuck up about it. Like, stop with it. We're going to talk about it for 45 more minutes. But it's like, it's a perfect marriage between, like, fun things like our friends from Bird Call. Shout out to Amador, Kayla, you know, the whole Bird Call family, teaming up with Chain, you know, as well as, you know, Tim Hollingsworth. And then the people, it's the party with Andrew Zimmern. Like, Andrew Zimmern and I, and Jeremy, shout out to Jay. We love Jeremy. He's a guest on the pod on a regular basis. We just talked shit to each other for 20 minutes about basketball. Like, we didn't bring up one single fucking thing about food because it was just like that. Like, it was just like a bunch of people getting together for a cookout, but they were cooking Wagyu and thousands of grams of caviar. It was fucking awesome.
Oh my God.
So let's dive into Thursday. Let's start with Thursday. So we get there. There is a welcome party by Chef Cedric and the team that's opening up the Wine in New York, which is a French and Indonesian inspired party. You were on your trek up, so you missed this one. It was just caviar, white wine, high-end hooch, and a DJ spinning in the back, bringing out spring rolls. And so I just sat there and just had 30 grams of fucking caviar and drank white wine. And that's, you know, the Baltz Co team literally like channels the energy of the town, and like the vibe in each one is a little different. You know, like no two parties are the same. So we started out there, and then I went to the welcome party for Food and Wine, and that's about when you got to town.
Yes.
Was right then.
Rolled in hot.
Yeah, so you missed the welcome party, which you would have loved this, and we'll do it next year. But it's those three chefs, but it's also Bobby was getting recognition from Hunter and the team at Food and Wine because it was his 20th year. So he got a special saber. Sarah Abel, our friend who works with Baltz Co., this was her 19th time helping put on this event. Gangster. So I know, she is a fucking gangster. I love that woman so goddamn much. So they got, you know, like called on stage and flowers. They had a baby goat at the party just to take pictures. So like you're walking the red carpet, taking a picture at the welcome party. Do you want to hold the baby goat? Do you want the St. Regis dog to be with you? And then you walk in and there's snacks galore. There's Chef Danny right there serving up, what was it, like a hamachi crudo or something of that nature.
Top Chef.
Yeah, and then this year's Top Chef.
Yeah.
And then you go up the stairs and there's Dan and Savannah, and there's this lady twirling churro pretzels on an umbrella, and you can just pull them off the umbrella and start chewing on them. You look to the left, there's Dan, who, by the way,
I'm biggest fan.
I mean,
no, I love them all, but like Dan, like win it, baby.
I know, we're cheering real hard for you Wednesday, Dan. And we're gonna see if we can get him on the pod in the next week. We didn't want to be intrusive and be like, hey, can we take you away for half an hour to do an interview? Especially when you're there to do meet and greets and parties. And we're still kind of bottom rung, even if we see ourselves as top rung folk. And then there they are. And then there's just people passing around drinks, and he had tater tots with caviar and creme fraiche on it. Knock back a few of those, and you call me and you're like, hey, you want to go to the Mellow party? And shout out to Spencer Barnes and the High West team, the Robert Maldavi Wine Group. And we go over to Casa Tua and Aspen and go have drinks and some light bites with Carmelo and the fam. Like, Carmelo Anthony, unbelievably kind. Like, I don't give a fuck about Denver sports teams except for when they're good. And he was a large part of that in our early days living here. That guy is so goddamn fun. Like, holy hell. And that's another person where you're like, how does he do it? Like, because everybody recognizes, you know, this tall dude. He's like towering over everybody, and he's pouring wine. And he's just unbelievably kind, humble as can be. And they're like, you want a glass of wine? White, red, rosé? I was like, oh my God. And then this is all on Thursday night. And then we go to the party where Bobby Stuckey and Carlin Carr, Queen of Chianti, they were pouring, aka selecting wines for a party at the Ajax Tavern. Ooh. I mean, I spilled so much shit on myself at that party. Those pink Gorka pants, gone. I mean, I spent $200 on a pair of pants to wear to a party. They lasted 4 hours.
That's why you just can't have nice things.
This really is. The only nice thing I should be allowed to have was the weed that I gave away to people. Shout out to our friends at Meraki.
So at that party, I remember like obviously walking up there and seeing the wine. It was incredible what they were pouring, and I just didn't know where to start. And I think the best thing I heard that night when I reached out to Adam, Carlin's husband, and I was like, Adam, how are you deciding? And he's like, man, it's about the same thing I do every year. I just ask Carlin what she's drinking, and then I get that. And so that's what I did.
I did as well.
And they were all delicious.
They were so goddamn good. And I think, mentioning Adam, we should also give a shout out to Danette Stuckey.
Yeah.
Because she is a queen. I mean, I could just goof off with her, Bobby, Carlin, and Adam for the whole, I'll just go tail them the whole weekend. She gave us tips of the trade last week, and I tried to follow that, but after about my 18th glass of wine and about my 14th stain on my pants, it was all shot.
It's hard not to overindulge. I mean, I don't have that restraint in me.
Zero restraint, Captain. So after that, we went to Little Nell with some friends, and Marcus Samuelson was there. Like, it was a who's who of very important people.
Like a baller.
Yeah, dude, that guy's fit. He has the cleanest fits I've ever fucking seen. And we closed down the fucking bar for the first night. And so we wake up Friday morning somewhat sprightly. And I have to go to this media brunch where I met up with Katie Shapiro, formerly of the Aspen Daily News, now with Food and Wine Magazine. Saw some other friends, Molly Martin from Westward. She was a hoot and a holler this weekend. I want to give her flowers. Jeremy and Emily were there. Lee and a bunch of other folks from the scene, real journalists. This isn't like, oh, come be an influencer, except for Carlo and Sarah, they're fucking awesome. It's actually for journalists. And so I got to eat breakfast with the Dior team, the Little Nell folks, and then I went straight into the grand tasting. Let me tell you what, it just doesn't disappoint. And I know that food, if you've been to a food festival, you're probably like, oh, they're all the same. And they are in terms of layouts and tents. This one's
bigger.
This one's bigger, and the food there is 70,000 times better. They have wines imported from Spain specifically for this.
Spain tent.
The Spain tent. The Spain tent. Holy shit. There's a tent, Eve, that's just sponsored by the country of Spain. And so they're just shaving fucking leg the whole day. And I was like, where did y'all get this? I just got back from Portugal where they said y'all buy all of their pigs and then claim them as your own. And he goes, fuck the Portuguese. And starts shaving deeper cuts, like he was angry at the pig's leg, and just giving me these long shears of prosciutto de Parma or whatever, prosciutto or whatever it was. Jamon, I guess would be the term they use. Oh my God, it was wonderful. So I want to ask you, because you can omit this part if you want, Eve, but we got Chris into the tent. We only had one pass, which is why it's kind of a snafu of how we kind of do this. But Chris was able to see the scene as well. I want to ask, what was your favorite bite from doing the grand tastings?
So I actually had this tasty bite that was, it was Pool Boy Taco. I just want to give a shout out to them. I think they're based out of Phoenix area.
Yeah.
But they were hand making their tortillas on site and then toasting them. So that was already good. And I think what was so good about it, I was asking them how they make these tortillas, and it's a combination of half of the ball that they make is corn, and then half of it's flour. So it's kind of a combination of a corn flour. Yeah, it's not super soft like a full flour tortilla. So it's got a little bite, and it puffed up almost like a little pancake. And it was really fucking good. And they just loaded the taco up.
There is no shortchanging. This is not a legal pizza or Chipotle. They have no minimum. They're like, oh, do you want 3 Wagyu sliders? It doesn't fucking matter. There is no minimum there. It's eat as much as your heart can desire.
And I'm not gonna lie, but you know how there's a lot of airlines there that are they have their little section at the corners, and they're dishing out some of their food, and it slaps. I can't remember what this one was, but I think it was kind of highlighting, maybe it was highlighting trips to Costa Rica or something, but there was like the shrimp cream puff, or like shrimp puff kind of sandwich that was fucking out of this world. But then also like just the cheeses. Like,
Jesus Christ. I had this truffle cheese, again from the Spain tent. I literally was like a squirrel, just putting them away for winter. I mean, and it explains why some of us didn't go to the restroom until day 5, Chris. Just the cheese for days.
also,
Oh
and
my God.
it's not the wine that will really get you tanked in there, although that does play a part, but it's when you get to the liquors and you start sampling some of the finer liquors. Like, I went through 4 tequilas there, and so that was probably, and the pours are not like some of these like low like smaller
Like a fingernail?
festivals. Yeah, no,
It's a shot.
You're getting a taste of it. And like after, I remember like walking through there, I had this one tequila that was, I don't know, they aged it in like a rosé wine barrel, and I could have drinking that whole fucking bottle. Yeah, it was.
You're exactly right. The Ford's Gin, they were doing those martinis with the chilled glasses and the fountain, so you could just get your own refills. Like, think of like a fondue fountain, but it's just cocktails. And people just bring a cup up, put your cup under it, and it just fills it up as high as you want it to go. But you're exactly right. Like, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Because if you find yourself, let's say, drinking 6 glasses of champagne at the Dior brunch, and then sampling a bunch of wines and tequilas, you do need a nap in the middle of the day.
You do.
My hand is raised. My hand is raised. I took a nap. I did it. Shout out to me. I took a nap.
Shout out to San Pellegrino for the tasty NA beverages when needed. They were everywhere.
I could have definitely heeded that advice. I wish you'd have told me that not on Monday. My favorite bites also were some of the Colorado brands represented. El Porcelino, shout out to Justin and Bill. I mean, their line was longer than my Johnson rod. It was fucking packed over there. But they had 48 different kinds of meats. I looked like Hannibal Lecter. I just had like sausage. I was just pulling it off my face and eating it. It was awesome. I mean, so goddamn fun. And the food in there was exceptional. And then in the Lexus booth, they had that car with the pizza oven from Monogram.
Right.
Oh, and then right there, they just had a braised like meat over fucking grits. And I was just like, ooh, you could feel the grits getting into like the crevices of your body. I mean, I am a fat ass on the inside. I needed to work out this morning, but instead I just like,
I gave
didn't.
myself a day of grace.
Yeah, I'm gonna go row in the morning. I'm gonna have to row like 50,000 fucking meters to burn off some of whatever this is right here. But I mean, Amanda and the team from Food and Wine, Lori, I mean, y'all fucking killed it. They absolutely killed it. And I just can't say enough about like how much effort goes into that. And like they work every minute until that gate opens, and then they continue to do it. I mean, Shara was like working on the CBS story days in advance with weather coming in. They were worried about the fires of the Twin Lake. They cover every inch of their basis, and you can tell because it shows at how smoothly that runs. Like multiple waves. They do 2 waves every day. Obviously, you know, you can buy individual passes for those types of things, or you can get the weekend pass, which is what we promoted early on. But I mean, it is so smoothly run. Like, I don't think the longest wait time I had was like 3 minutes. And that's because I was talking to somebody and let someone cut in front of me. Like, you don't skip a beat in that place.
And shout out to how they can bring in volunteers, you know, in a moment. I mean, obviously it's planned well in advance, but those people play a big role in making it smooth. It's clean.
Oh, and like they have these paddles, Eve, that separate compost, recycling, and trash. These people, it looks like they're bidders at, what is the place up in fucking New York where you do the bidding on like when you're buying stuff? I can't remember the name.
Sotheby's.
Sotheby's. Oh my God, Eve. It's such a well-oiled machine. You would hate this just because of how like on you have to be, because everybody wants to talk to you. Somebody almost convinced me to buy a $200 wine glass. That's because I was drinking that fucking tequila and gin. I was like, oh, okay. So I scanned the QR code and I saw 100 and I had 2 pictures of like the glasses. And I was like, okay, that would actually be kind of a cool gift to get like for somebody for their wedding, you know, or something like that. And they're like, oh no, sweetheart, they're $100 a piece. And I was like, I'm just gonna put my phone away and go back to the poverty section over here.
Right.
Holy fuck. But I'm glad we were able to get in there on Friday, have a little fun, get that nap, because Friday night, it started again.
Friday night was absolutely insane, and it almost felt like a flash, because I think, number one, I was so excited, getting up a little bit, getting up to the top of the mountain, and not only that though, our ride up with Vivek.
He's maybe my favorite human ever. And I was gonna ask you that for best bites, favorite person you met, things of that nature. Do we agree that Vivek is possibly the coolest person on the fucking planet?
Yeah, just how cheerful he is.
Vivek Diora is, a lot of folks know his wife Manit, but they own a chain of fast casual Indian restaurants based out of Nashville, but they have a bunch of them littered across the country and up in Canada as well. But I got to meet him last year. We were both very stylish gentlemen. And so I bumped into him Thursday night. I was like, look who it is. And we recognize each other. He's a tall drink of water.
Yeah.
He's like 6'6". So like I remembered him vividly, and I'm sure he meets a lot more folks than I do and does a lot more of these events. But for him to remember me and then being able to introduce you, and it was like we're best friends. Like
Their bomber jacket he had on that night.
He dresses sharp as a tack. Like he and Bobby Stuckey and Marcus are the only people I know. Like I channel them. I want to be them when I get like when I become a grown up, because not only does he dress sharp, but he was he's just a fucking hoot. He's a hoot and a holler. I love hanging out with that guy and being able to take the gondola with him up to the top of the mountain and just pick his brain about life, you know, like talking about working in the hospitality industry, why we hate influencers, Yelp, Google.
People who bitch about prices.
Oh my God. Like, I can't tell you, like, there's this just group disdain for, like, if you led with, like, oh yeah, I'm an influencer out of Denver, you would that would be the one time they'd be like, all right, get the fuck out of here. Like, there's zero respect for these people that just curry favor for, like, free food, and they'll say anything for a free fucking sandwich. He was like, yeah, they drive us crazy. That and people that just leave 1-star Yelps. And we started talking about our friend who got left a 1-star Yelp review because she went to go to her own award show in Chicago and wasn't open for this one cunt.
About it.
Yeah, and then this cunt goes on Yelp and leaves a 1-star. And he was like, I fucking hate those people. But it gives you an insight to a restaurant owner's perspective a little more candidly when we're about 7 drinks deep, stuck in a or riding up a gondola.
And, you know, he also shared what we try to say, and the fear about that is, like, it legitimately hurts business. Like, it can make people be like, nah, I don't want to check out that. Like, if they're using that platform as a way to, like, see, where should we go tonight?
Sure, yeah.
You know, but those things, like, that can fuck people up. So, like, just don't do it.
Yeah, like what we like to use for Yelp or Google is, I understand that if you don't have anything nice to say nothing at all. Yeah. But at the same time, he is the most unbelievably cheerful, kind human, as is his wife. But getting to kind of personally hang out with him for a little longer was unreal. Unreal. I love that man so much. We're going to have to get him on the pod. We're going to have to do a Zoom with him, Eve. Get the StreamYard booted up. We got to get Vivek on.
Also,
how about the top of the mountain?
I mean, okay, like, first of all, I've been to Aspen several times, but never had a chance to get up to the top of the mountain. And holy shit, that's got to be one of the higher top of the mountains. Like, we were up
11,011 feet, I think is the exact number.
I mean, I don't know what it was, but it felt super fucking high. And, I mean, the backdrop, the mountain views were fucking awesome. Coming out of the gondola with, like, the
people on stilts and the
drummer,
the big metal drum.
It was awesome. And then once we got in to the actual, like, event space up there, it was just so loud. There was just, like, so much movement.
It's a who's who up there. Shout out to Tyler for Tyler Florentine. Maybe he's always on. Like, he is, like, smiling, shaking hands, kissing babies. Like, if that guy was running for governor, I'd vote for him. He's a great chef and a very kind person. But at the same time, that was kind of the theme, is everyone's just so happy to be there and be together. And, like, for us, it was seeing folks maybe we don't see but once a year outside of being on TV. and it just picks up right where you left off. And then like, yeah, there's caviar just everywhere, like everywhere. There's snacks being passed around. Right when we walked in, they were like, harissa chicken wing. I was like, yes, I will.
That had a bite.
Oh, I loved it.
That stung. That was great though. But yeah, that party seemed to go by in a flash.
And what did we do after that? We went down to our friends over at Bird Call Chicken. If you don't know, now you know. They're hatched here in Denver, but their culinary director, Amador, he's a friend of the program. He teamed up with some geniuses. And I mean, oh my gosh, was that not a fucking party? So Eve, they took over this hotel and they ripped off chain restaurants and made replicas of their things. So like a McDonald's French fry, a chicken nugget that may be similar to Hateful Chickens. Like this month of all months, we hate them the most. But like, you know, things like that. And then they just topped off fuckers with caviar. I mean, the tater tots, you've heard me suck their dick about the tater tots before. They just topped it with fucking caviar and just bring them out to you. Like, y'all want, you know, 38,000 tater tots with caviar? And we're like, yeah. And then you look over and there's AZ, and then there's the Top Chef team, and then you go upstairs to VIP, and then there's our friends Kelly and the, you know, the IE family are up there. Your best friend Dan was up there. Y'all sat there and chatted for like an hour. I didn't want to interrupt, but I wanted to know who won Top Chef. And his exact quote was, if you Venmo me $1.7 million, then maybe I will tell you, because they have that NDA of like, we'll cut you if you, like, we'll stab you if you ruin the surprise.
Dude, and shout out to that watermelon drink up there, that
at the Molly
watermelon
Hotel.
tequila. Oh, I think I slung back 3 of those.
I mean, it was the perfect summer late night, and it was like at the perfect time, like we talked about things being double stacked throughout the evening. For those that went to Top of the Mountain, you could kind of come and go as you please, whereas the other big dinner, the Black on Black, was a longer sit-down affair. So being able to just dip in and then hang out there as long as we wanted to, I thought they threw a kick-ass fucking party. And then from there we went to the St. Regis for a little DJ set, and then went from the St. Regis to the Little Nell again.
That one got it. That one escalated quickly. The night before was a little
Milder?
like we had a drink and a couple bites.
We had a
and
couple
then
of
we
drinks.
left.
I had like 3 martinis.
But that night we had a few more martinis.
And they were like, we'll give you to-go cups if y'all will leave our restaurant bar. Like, it was like 3 a.m. So we wake up Saturday morning and we're like, okay, we have this luncheon with the Baltz Co team. And I had done it last year at the 7L Lazy Ranch, I believe, or 7-Way Lazy Ranch. It's just outside of Aspen. It's at the foothills of the Maroon Bells in this gorgeous long running meadow with wildflowers. And Chef Gregory and Chef Kwame, you probably know them from Food Network, had this beautiful array of food that they had set up. But before that, they had a little welcome cocktail. I needed it. I should have eaten breakfast because I got a little hot and I was like, I need to sit down for a second.
He almost went down.
I almost went down. So I sat down for like 10, 15 minutes and I rallied, of course, because I'm a degenerate. And when you could smell that chicken,
Dude, I mean, it felt like the best family cooking event. Like, you know, like, hey, let's have a big cookout and invite all our friends. That's what it felt like. And the food was so goddamn pleasing. Those ribs, I mean, like with the char on them, were so damn good. Sausage was good. That tater salad, the mustard dressing on that tater salad was so damn good.
I mean, okay, I swear to God. So like most of the food is obviously a little bit more like forward of like, we're feeding 50,000 people. This one's a little bit more of an intimate crowd. There's obviously like 100 or so people there for this event. The flavors on that meal, I don't think they could be rivaled. Like it was fucking fantastic. I didn't eat but like 2 vegetables the whole weekend, Eve.
I cleaned my whole plate.
You definitely cleaned your whole plate. But I can't tell you how wonderful that meal was. Like that lunch, it was like Thanksgiving, but with like soul and like culture and passion. You could feel it, taste it. Like there was spice. There was like a marriage between like a cooling off bite mixed with the heat of like the chicken. Like there was a pork, or there was like a sausage and onion and pepper that was a little milder, but that sauce was like, it was almost like a fucking broth. There was like an umami like base to it. It was wonderful. I can't tell you how great that lunch was. And it all went off without a hitch. Shout out to Phil, Shannon, Michelle, and especially Sarah Abel, because I don't think I've ever attended an event that I just like think about for 364 more days. And for the next 364 more days, I will be waiting to see if we can get back into next year's party. Hopefully I didn't burn the bridge. I didn't actually go down, which is a big bonus. Because had I would, they'd been like, look at this amateur. But I wasn't. I was like, give me just a few minutes. I'll drink some water.
And nobody was really around. People
Yeah,
were
no one
walking.
gave a shit. It was like, I was like, I need to sit down. I'm very hot. And I was like sweating profusely. And then I bounced back. I mean,
He had a lot of boob sweat under his shirt.
I had boob sweat, Eve. It was bad because I don't have boobs. So it was like, oh man, he really is sweating. And they were like, hey, just drink some pineapple juice and some water. And 10 minutes later, I was like, get me in this food line. I'm going to fuck that shit up. And we would be remiss if we didn't give a shout to Lon. Chef Lon from, obviously everyone knows him as Show Lon, Yumcha, LaRue, and now Gusto. He's good friends with Gregory, and so I saw him there last year partying together, and I believe Gregory worked with Lon at Departure here, way back when. I think is that how they know each other. But Lon fucking slayed that open fire grill.
Yeah.
Like that chicken, cooking for 300, Kwame in the same camp. The meats, like that's how pros do it. And that team, they were so professional, both, front of house, back of house, the people that put on the event. That's a one-of-one style experience.
And that was the first opportunity I had to have dessert all weekend. And the first dessert that was brought out was tasty. It wasn't my thing, but whoever made that goddamn banana pudding, like, I really need to find out.
Tell the listeners about it, Chris, because I got a video of you like coming in your pants, but I need the listeners to know if they missed that story.
Well, first of all, I thought that one kind of like granita dessert with like some spices was the only dessert being offered. And we were outside like chatting around the valley, and then somebody was carrying a tray and was like, "Oh, would you like banana pudding?" Like, abso-fucking-lutely.
That's your 1A. Now, like when you get married, if that's not your dessert, I'll be surprised.
And it was so good. Like, it was in this kind of like, I don't know, like kind of almost like champagne, like wide flute or whatever. And it wasn't like a super thick, but there was like this toasted sesame crumble type deal on top, just on half of it, which was delicious. And then once you dip the spoon in there, you realize like it was a thicker pudding. And then it got softer on the way down. But then there was this unexpected layer of chocolate in there. And the chocolate is what sent it to the moon.
Eve, I'm not telling you, he couldn't even talk. He like dropped to his knees.
That was a huge bite that I got too. I made sure to get everything.
May my grandmothers both rest in peace. It was immaculate, and it was better than any Southern dish I have, there's nobody anywhere back home doing what that toasted sesame with a little bit of salt that kind of gave that compromise of like kind of meeting you in the middle with that like tapioca almost style like flavor. It just was a nice like meeting point, and it was the perfect way to settle after having that fully spice-filled lunch.
Oh, I wish I could have taken some of that home.
We had to get another nap after lunch, and this is where, I'll drop to my knees. We went to a dinner. It's the first time that, shout out to Brady for letting us be a part of it, the Global Fire Dinner, which is back at the, what's it called, mine? It starts with an S? The something mine? Whatever it was, the big mine that overlooks Aspen. It's an event hosting space, but our friends, Kelly Whitaker, our friend Justin Sutherland, our friends Brandon, our friends Justin Brunson, Alex, Jonas, they all were there cooking on open fire. And so they had just and this was like, oh my gosh, it was the most decadent thing I have ever been a part of. I don't think that was the best day of eating in my entire life. And I think we would be screwed if we didn't say thank you to the folks at Westholm who provided a lot of that beef, all of the Wagyu. There was just meat dripping down. And then here comes Byron Gomez, chef at Bruta. I'm sorry I omitted him. And Taylor from Wolf's. But they take the molten thing that drips molten from the cast iron, and they're dropping it onto oysters, and it's melting and kind of glazing over the top, and you're just knocking back oysters, like slow cooking fish, like full racks of ribs, and I mean, it was immaculate.
Not to mention, just like on the walk up before you took those stairs to get up to the top where most of like the live fire cooking was going on, there was just that hunk of fucking bison just cooking over that open fire beneath it. That the
Red Maple, that's who did that one.
Oh man, making that French dip out of it. That was a perfect way to start it off.
And as you're listening to this podcast, you probably saw our social media page. Today we highlighted Food and Wine and Global. We'll have the full Amex trade video out by Thursday because I'm going to continue glazing this whole operation for, I mean, at least a month. Like, I'm not taking these off. I'm wearing these wristbands like I'm a 22-year-old girl from Coachella. I mean, Chris, it was the most immaculate day of dining ever. And shout out to our buddy Jason Mangold, as well as Lily, Brittany, Connor, Gertie. Like, we had a bunch of friends from the Colorado community that were up there representing and supporting the local restaurateurs as well. It was fucking divine. Can we talk about the wines that I was not sure how I was getting poured, but I was?
Oh, the ones on the backside?
The backside wines, y'all, they had wines from before Hitler was in charge of Germany. Literally, I was drinking wine from 1939, and then they're like, ooh, try this 76. Or 73. I like the 67 more. Try the 67 more. They're like, it's a little muted. I was like, I've been drinking wine for 4 days. I don't know what the fuck muted means at this point. I was just 2 sheets to the wind, having a big time, eating to my heart's content.
Did you sample some of that whiskey that they're rolling out for like Wolf's Taylor?
Oh yeah, and I'm not sure if Kelly wants us to talk about it, but we're going to talk about it.
Yeah, because
oh my God, it's his own grains. The man's
so smooth.
He's a genius with everything he does. Like, he has waste-free, restaurants. He uses every aspect of, he's got his own fucking grain and mill outside of town. He is doing things the right way. And the Michelin Guide gave him the very justifiable 2 green stars last year. But now using some of those exact same like materials or, I guess ingredients to fucking make a smooth blended whiskey. Holy shit, it was delicious.
It was smooth.
And, it got us right as rain. Like, I was groovy by the end of that. And then they were like, oh no, we're still partying. We're going to late night. And that's kind of where we started to slow our roll. We were like, okay, let's like understand our worth. Let's go to a DJ set in a basement and party with our buddies, Jesse, Nick. I mean, it was so much goddamn fun.
Pick up some kimonos on the way in.
I did get a kimono from Monkey Shoulder. They had everybody wearing orange kimonos in this downstairs basement DJ. People were on top of the bar, just like grinding. Like, and it's all models and like pretty people, and then it's just Chris and I just like doing thumbs up, dancing like one of the Bradys from the Brady Brunch movie. Like, we were so not fit to be in any of these locations, but cannot speak enough like how much we appreciate them welcoming us in and allowing us to be a part of the festivities all weekend.
The DJ brought a vibe downstairs at Hooch. And like, yeah, I mean, I realized like I was smart enough to know like I gotta drive us home. I gotta make sure we get home safely.
Not that night for clarification. It was the next day you had to drive.
So I was just like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And then you ordered espresso martini, so solid.
So what's really cool about these things is oftentimes if you get the general like admission pass, you go to the food festival, but it ends in the kind of duskish time. And then there's all these other little parties going on. And oftentimes you can find some of them on Eventbrite or these ways you can buy them. But if you know someone in the industry, they'd be happy to put you on the list. Sometimes they don't even give a shit. The team at Hooch was so kind. They were like, come on in. We'd love to have you here. And they have drinks that are sponsored. So there's 2 or 3 drinks that you can have that are complimentary. And so like pina coladas or the watermelon drinks at Bird Call's party. Like the espresso martini, once I tasted one, again, shout out to Jesse. He's my favorite person that I knew going into this weekend, like genuinely, he's fucking amazing. But when they're complimentary, it's like, I tasted it, I was like, we got to get one. And then I stayed up till like 1:30 a.m. that night. You were out like a light when you hit your head on
I was toasted. Yeah. I was toasted.
I mean, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And then on Sunday, this year we didn't make it. Last year I did it, but they do a top of the mountain luncheon. Our friend Caroline Glover was she was a winner of Best New Chef in America by the Beard Foundation a couple of years ago. But the food and wine people, again, shout out to Lori, Shara, Amanda, their whole team, they're fucking excellent. They have this like kind of bon voyage party, and the Sunday grand tasting is still going on, but that's when vendors are from all over the world are like, we're not flying back with these cases of wine, so they start just giving the booze away. So while we missed it this year, the Sundays is kind of like the pros day to go get after it. And we'll get there next year. You know, it was a little bit, like we had to get your feet wet, Chris.
I would have loved to have tasted whatever.
That shrimp toast Caroline did.
Oh.
And I think we would also be remiss if we didn't give a shout out to the ladies of the Commander's Palace. Oh my God, I think I'm in love with tea. Like, it's a place we grew up eating, Chris. You know, like we know it really well, but I've never had as much fun just chatting about home as I did with T and Lolly that all weekend. And they did seminars with Bobby and Carlin, and like there's these little seminars where you can taste 6 different wines that are like older than my parents, you know, stuff like that. But they had a great representation up there. Like Sundays is a day where it's like, maybe you want to stay till Monday. You don't want to sit in traffic on Sundays.
Exactly.
And that's the pro move, is stay till Monday. But at the same time, it was an exceptional weekend. It was an exceptional weekend. I think we would be remiss if we didn't give a shout out to Jeremy Harlan and his wife, Emily. They're unbelievably kind. They've taken us under their wing over the last 2 years, introduced us to, folks in the industry from across the country. We met a lot of folks that knew us, which was kind of scary. They're like, oh my God. I got stopped in the street, Eve. I swear to God. I was like, whoa, me? They're like, you're Stoned Appetite, aren't you? And I was like, that's us. It was kind of funky. And then we were on a bus with a girl from Philadelphia. She's like, I know your podcast. I know who you are. And we're like, oh shit, what did we do? And she was like, no, we just know the podcast. I was like, oh, I thought I like pissed myself last night at the bar or something. Like, it's so cool.
We even told people, shout out to our producer, Eve.
Yeah, we were like, we have this woman who hates us, but she kind of loves us somewhat.
And it was in a very good light.
Yeah, we were like,
it didn't work out that way.
We were like, we love our producer. We're not sure if she loves us back. We're like, it's a work in progress. She's warming up to us.
But she makes us sound better.
You're coming up next year with us. You're going to love it, hate it, all at the same time. You get to talk to all these people. We know you love talking to people.
You get to eat Wagyu beef. I know you love that.
I mean, to be fair, it just like melts across your mouth. But all in all, like the weekend experience, we call it our Super Bowl. It's better than anything I've ever done. I've traveled to a lot of cool countries. I've eaten a lot of dank food. But having it all under one tent, the grand tasting, I mean,
And with cool people.
Cool people. So Chris, let's do a quick recap. Best bite you had all weekend.
Best bite would, I got to go with that lunch, like just that whole entire lunch. Cause
The Baltz Co lunch? Yeah. It was awesome. I think Chef Miles with that Wagyu and caviar top.
That is really damn good.
Dan's tater tot with
I
caviar was a solid one. Yeah, you were on your way up. Favorite person you met this weekend?
I really and truly, like, I'm a big fan of Dan.
Yeah.
I'm rooting for him Wednesday night. Like, normally I catch it Thursday, but since it's the finale, I'm watching it Wednesday night.
I am too. And we'll try and see if we can get him on the pod, because if he does bring home the gold, odds are his schedule's about to be fucking busy, and he's going to do Good Morning America appearances, and rightfully so. Y'all, when I tell you this guy is just so fun and personable, like I hope that, whenever he hangs up his chef's coat, that we see him on things like Chopped. We see him on like Food Network, things in that nature, because it's kind of a circle or a community, and once they have you in it, then you're kind of you're ingratiated, but you're also like, you're in it then. You do Guy Fieri's show, you do Beat Bobby Flay's, like everyone kind of works together. It's a water wheel of like marketing and TV shows and things of that nature. And I think his personality would shine in that.
He makes me want to go to Wisconsin.
Yeah. You know what?
I think I told him that.
I'll fucking party him more. I asked him 25 times, Eve, who won, and he was like, seriously, Kip, I'm going to shank you. And on the last night, I didn't bother him, and he snuck up behind me. He's like, Kip, who do you think won? And I was like, I fucking knew it. But he really is a hoot and a holler. So I could get that. best meal was through G and Kwame. Best person or favorite person you met was Dan. What you would be looking forward to most next year?
Maybe that opening welcoming party.
Okay,
The
we'll
food
get
and wine
you.
welcoming
You
party.
got to take Thursday off of work next year instead of working.
Done.
Thursday. That was a silly mistake. Okay, so Chris, here's mine. We met a lot of cool people this weekend. I got to see a lot of folks that I've met before but don't really know personally. Getting to hang out with Vivek and Manit may have been one of my bigger highlights of the weekend. Like just chatting with them as we walked down the street, eating chicken tenders with caviar on top of them. Literally, Eve, Manit, she's maybe 5'2".
That was hilarious.
She's just walking down the street with a bucket of
KFC
chicken.
bucket.
It looks like KFC, but they ripped off the logos, and it's bird called chicken with caviar on top of it. And she's just gnawing at it, and she's like, I'm going to eat the rest of this tonight. Her and her husband are awesome. I'm going to Nashville not only to support their restaurant, but I just want more of them in my life. We even got off the wayward path of talking about food to talk about politics, life in America, like how things are kind of slowly like going south. And it's just nice to have like a humanizing conversation with people that you've oftentimes looked up to. So I love them. But I want to give a shout out to our Channing Frye and the Chosen One wines. They were the wines that we were sipping at that lunch that you loved so much. He is so nice, and I met him last year, but we got to chat a little bit more this year, like personally. Got to give him a little gift, a token of our appreciation. And so I just can't say enough about getting to meet and kind of goof off with him.
He's so damn tall.
Well, yeah, he's a fucking former professional basketball player, but at the same time, just unbelievably kind, you know, a little more reserved. Like he's not going to be like us. Look at me. And we have no reason to be that way, but here we fucking are. He is just so unbelievably nice. And his speech was wonderful. And before we go, I want to just send our condolences to everybody. I think there was some really heavy hearts on Saturday and Sunday as the news of Chef James Kent passing. You know, a lot of folks are there from the New York community and know, you know, he's had his hands in a lot of restaurants opening, a lot of, you know, success, you know, things of that nature. He was a large part of that. And it seems, I didn't know him personally. I don't think you did either. But he touched a lot of people and he touched a lot of folks in the industry. And so I just want to send our condolences to everybody that knew him. But yeah, we had a wonderful weekend. Again, I cannot tell the food and wine community, I cannot express how much I appreciate Lori letting us be a part of this weekend, and to the Baltz Co family.
Love y'all so much.
I love them so fucking much. Phil, Sarah, Shannon, this was our first time meeting you in Miami. We hope you made it home if you're listening to this. And of course, Michelle, who we love dearly, and we've gotten to know her really well over the years. I can't tell, my cup runneth over of how appreciative I am, because that is one of those things that I would never miss if I could go every year. And I try to make sure we don't burn any bridges when we go out there, despite how dumb and fucking stupid I act on a regular basis. I try to be a little bit more behaved while I'm up there, because I'm just so appreciative to be able to attend. And I mean, it's just a wealth of knowledge you get from everybody, and just getting to befriend folks and like pick their brains, even from cooking styles. Thanks again to our friends over at Pine Melon. Their booth was kick-ass. Thanks to Bird Call for the late night. I mean, I feel like I'm accepting an Oscar or something like that, but I can't say enough great things about the community and the circle that is fostered, you know, through that event. And we're just so grateful and appreciative to be a part of it. I'm sorry for the rambling. Hopefully we didn't name drop too terribly bad, but how can you not when talking about some of the best wines?
We're giving thanks.
And yeah, I mean, there was winemakers from across the globe that absolutely slaughtered it this weekend. You'll see more of their representation in our videos on social media. And on Thursday, I'll get a more polished list. But happy birthday to Sarah Abel. We hope everyone has a wonderful fucking week. Y'all get ready. Do we miss anything, Eve?
If we did not mean to.
Shout out to Katie Shapiro again. Thanks for taking us under your wing 4 years ago with articles and then letting us sit with you and goof off with you. Like, the list goes on and on. I can't say it enough. But we'll keep it tight until Thursday when I ramble on some more. Stay high. Stay hungry, everyone.
Caviar.
I'm jealous.
We finally got her jealous. We're taking Eve next year. We'll see y'all Thursday. Cheers.